not to make reply, there's not to reason why, there's but to do and die. Into the valley of death rode the 600. Welcome to another episode of BaatCheet Beyond Small Talk, where today we will delve into the beautiful world of the armed forces, corporate leadership, and of course, Toastmasters. In our today's episode, we have a very special guest, an Indian Navy veteran, somebody who is working for Bangalore International Exhibition Center as the Senior Director, a distinguished Toastmaster, and a very dear friend. Welcome to our show, Sunil.
Thank you, Shikta, for having me here.
Sunil, my first question to you and for all of our viewers is, tell us about your first experience in the Navy, your earliest memories.
So the thing is that when I first went for the interview of the Indian Navy, I remember a friend of mine who said, yeah, I know somebody who got into the Navy, but they were far smarter. And that actually egged me on. And I remember I went for the interview with a lot of it was like a pride sort of thing. I had to pass because somebody had actually said that I wouldn't be able to do it. And I still remember the first day that I walked into the Indian Naval Academy, and it was nothing that I have ever thought was the way it should be, And from that point onwards, that initial training, there were many times during the initial training I just wanted to give up. But then the only thing that kept me going is that thousands of lakhs of people have gone through it and they have been on the other side and got into the Navy. So I also should be able to do it. And it was 7 years in the Indian Navy. And the uniform, that's what has been always something that's been very close to my heart. The white uniform is something that's something, if you wear it, then only you'll be able to know what it means. With all due respect to the other armed forces, but the Navy white along with the gold stripes is something out of this world. And yes, we've got so many other uniforms. When we talk about the services, nobody talks about the amount of uniforms. We had 10 different uniforms for 10 different occasions. If I'm working on ship, I've got a different uniform. If I'm going for some ceremonial, I have a different uniform. And if I'm going for dinner, normal dinner, there's a uniform. Ceremonial dinner, there's a uniform. So they've got so many uniforms. And that makes you actually want to look your best.
Sunil, was there an inspiration or somebody that you had seen while growing up who inspired you to join the Navy?
So I can always tell you that my dad was in the Navy, but then I have never seen him in uniform because I think I was too young for that. But then joining the Navy was something that a lot of our friends and people who were in college, not only the Navy, the armed forces generally, that was a trend then that people wanted to join. And I was one of them. If you ask me, did somebody motivate me to join? I wouldn't say that. But it was generally that yes, the services provided us certain quality of life and certain fulfilling of your aspirations. So you join service.
So we are speaking of the pride of the uniform and your beautiful experience in the Indian Navy, your armed forces in general. Do you want to talk about any life experiences that you specifically cherish from this experience?
I think the services generally, whether it's Army, Navy, Air Force, doesn't matter, it actually makes you face your fears. Okay, and that's always been the case. Whether I have till I joined the Navy I've never run and done things in services which I've never done outside. I've been a very lazy guy. I think maybe that was taught me to come out of my laziness in that sense. I've never been a physical guy. I'm pretty sure before the Navy I couldn't even run 1 kilometer without huffing and puffing. And the amount of weight that I had gained while I was out of college, Navy really made
Between your college and Navy?
College and Navy. I would have been, I think, 65 to 66 kgs. And my initial training when I came out, I was, I think, 56 kgs. I was dark. And I still remember my mom, she had come for a passing out parade. So passing out parade is after your initial training, you come out and that's the time you put on your rank for the first time. and it's a ceremony in itself, and your parents come, you get your stripes on your shoulder, and your parents come and open it. My dad was not there, my brother and my mom had come, and I still remember my mom crying when she first saw me. She was like, "Where did my child go?" It was like I was dark, and your hair is fully shaven, the typical crew cut, military cut, and I still remember, her really being very emotional about it. But then I think that few years I was in the prime of my physical state. Like I could chew iron and then spit it out. I mean, I was that good. And I think services make you like that. And if you ask me really what have I learned, no, I think I really learned to be self-disciplined, because I remember when I was when I was posted in ship. That was my first ship posting. Along with another officer, we were sharing a cabin which was like, I don't know, half the size, maybe 1/4 of the size of this room. And we just couldn't litter anything. If you had items, it had to be either in the shelf or it had to go out in the garbage. You just cannot put it in different places. That really taught me a lot of self-discipline. And it also helped that the person who I was sharing the bunk was at least 6 years my senior. And 1 year senior in Navy is like, that's the thing.
And he must be 6x the more disciplined than you.
Yeah, obviously, they're very disciplined. I remember he used to, and this was before we had all this self-help gurus coming in. He used to get up in the morning and he used to learn 6 words every day from his thesaurus, from his dictionary. And he used to write it down and write one sentence. This was before Toastmasters would have even thought about it. I'm talking about the early 90s, 99, 2000, 2001 time. And a lot of learning from people like that, You get how they wear their uniform, how they keep their shoes. The other thing that you do is you shine your shoes the entire night for a ceremonial parade the next day. It should be so shining that you can see your face in it. So the entire day you're only shining your shoe. So all these kind of things you have. The other thing is you should be ready to do any job. Okay, because I have painted roads, painted furniture when I was in the Navy, and I have. You should be able to be very adaptable. Like when you go to camp, you don't have a restroom. You actually use the wilderness for everything, and that teaches you a lot about yourself. How comfortable you are, how you deal with uncomfortable situations, those kind of things. And the other thing is, which I've really learned in the Navy, is how to really present yourself. Okay, in terms of how do you dress, how do you, when you go to somebody else, even if that person is not well dressed or something, you would still carry around being well dressed, because it doesn't talk about that person, it talks about you.
Wow.
Okay? And so a lot of people in Toastmasters keep having this. We have this lot of debate happening, isn't it? That should you be dressed properly when you go to a meeting? Is it required? I know it's pretty old school, but then I feel that that's also learning in Toastmasters, isn't it? That you become better groomed, you go to a meeting, you apply yourself, you stand there, you buy a blazer, I don't know, whatever it is. But then it speaks about yourself, it speaks volumes about it. And that itself is also communication, isn't it, in that sense?
So Sunil, all of these, your learnings and your habits, I clearly see that they have just stayed with you. You still go running. You still are, of course, very well dressed. But does it become too much for the others who's around you? How's the family taking your running and waking up early?
No, I think I've been very fortunate that way, because my better half has been my running partner in that sense. Okay, she's a reluctant runner to start with, but she's run more marathons than I have at present. And she, especially after joining Toastmasters, the way she dresses, she's become a power dresser in her, the way she looks at it. So I think, I would like to think that I'm having a positive impact, and with that belief I'll move forward, I would say, in that sense.
So Sunil, speaking about your better half, I know that your wife is also a very dedicated leader, a Toastmaster, and now your son, who's in the college, has also joined the Toastmasters family. So this entire legacy of Toastmasters running through your family, did you introduce Toastmasters to them, or they just were organically drained towards Toastmasters?
See, I started my Toastmasters in 2016. So I was the first person to come to Toastmasters. And I think my better half was pretty curious of what we were doing in Toastmasters, because I think I took quite a lot of time there. And because of that, she subsequently joined in 2018 or 2019, I think, later part of 2019. And now she's found value in that, and she's continuing, and I think she's really found herself in the Toastmasters movement. As far as my son is concerned, he was never keen. Since both of us were part of the Toastmasters fraternity, we felt it could add value and we pushed him. And after a year, I think now in the recent 6 to 8 months, he's really taking keen interest. He's part of the leadership team in the club. He was also the contest chair for both the club as well as the area contest. So I think he wouldn't do that, I'm pretty sure, because I know him very well. He wouldn't do that if he doesn't find great value in that. So yeah.
So Sunil, so there is this son of yours who you have introduced the value or Toastmasters to. But tell me about your journey. What motivated or how did you get introduced to Toastmasters?
So I first really got experience of Toastmasters through a speechcraft that was done in our office. And I was really impressed by the processes that were discussed during the speechcraft. And apart from that, actually being able to deliver your speeches after preparing it. And that really motivated me quite a lot. And I searched for some club nearby, because I was very clear that either the club should be close to my office or it should be close to my home. Otherwise, I knew I wouldn't be consistent in going to the club. And luckily for me, the BaatCheet Toastmasters Club is just a couple of kilometers from where I'm staying. So that's how I ended up joining BaatCheet. And as far as what do I really find or what am I looking for, the journey in Toastmasters started off as a platform to play out my creativity. I really like writing, and when I write, I get to experiment with my speeches and bring in a lot of creative elements, and then putting it on stage and delivering it gives you a high that is uncomparable in that sense. And but then as I went through the journey, I found that before Toastmasters, I used to talk to people, and I never felt that I was communicating and I was reaching out to them or connecting. Now I think I talk less and I communicate more.
This is more in your corporate space, Sunil, or do you think this has helped you in your personal space as well, the communication?
In my personal space also, because now I am at least aware that if I say something, people will not take it the same way that I've said it, because I've seen that happen. Just to give you an example, like I had given a speech in my club, and I used some really good words. I'm a bibliophile, so I read quite a lot. And I had gone through a number of books, and I put a concise speech using the learnings from that book and bringing in some elements of daily life. And then I still remember the evaluator so well. She said, Sunil, such a great speech. Your speech was so good, so many good words. I really need a dictionary to understand what you said. She said it with due respect and with a lot of awe. But then I felt as a Toastmaster, as a communicator, I failed. Because if somebody needs to go to a dictionary to understand my speech and understand what I've communicated, then I don't think that's why I joined Toastmasters for.
Oh wow. I've always been intrigued how your family conversations would look like. All three Toastmasters together and all great communicators. So that rules out a lot of chances for miscommunication. I mean, that's how I feel.
See, the point is, I think the best communicator in my family is my better half. Because she communicates very simple, whereas I think me and my son Karthik, we are very complicated the way we communicate. He likes to use big words, and that's an ongoing sort of a joke in our family. That many times he uses words that both of us can't understand. So we're like trying to figure out. We need a dictionary to understand, or maybe he does it unknowingly. I'm not sure.
Speaking of big word, another big word in our Toastmasters world is DTM, which you have just become, Sunil. So tell us about your experience through your DTM project and why you took 8 years to finish your DTM.
I did. I completed my DTM in 8 years, and I think I quote one of the Toastmasters who had actually wished me, and he started off that wish with saying that a well-timed DTM, because you've taken up roles because you wanted to, not because the DTM was something that you are really looking forward to. But one thing is that yes, everybody wants to be a DTM, isn't it? You start your Toastmasters journey, whatever time, whatever place, you want to become a DTM. But then I feel that unless you go through certain experiences, a DTM doesn't give you that kind of an achievement in that sense. And for me, the DTM journey has been a journey of a lot of learnings, and I've been part of the old the CC manual and the old education system also, and I've done quite a lot of speeches in that. I think I've given some 15 speeches there, and then subsequently whatever in the 2 parts that I've done. And over the DTM journey, what I've really found is the non-core activities that you take up, like contesting, when you contest in contests, when you take up leadership roles, which really need not add points to your DTM journey, but then those are the things that give you more learning than the actual what you do things, because it adds a certain dimension to what you're doing. So my point here is the journey is more important than just saying that okay, I became DTM. Just because I became DTM last month doesn't mean my learning stops. You have to continue, because I've already, 2 parts are over, I'm already registered for my 3rd part, I've given my 2 speeches also.
Right. So coincidentally, Sunil, you are the second Sunil I know who's saying that the journey is more important, and the other Sunil I know took 11 years to complete his DTM. So I'm so glad that there are people who are still there in the fraternity who's not taking DTM like a race that you have to take in the next 1 year or 2 years.
Yeah, the thing is that DTM is not a recognition in that sense, because DTM is an achievement, isn't it? Because you have to go through the process, and once you go through the process, your DTM comes to you organically. That's what I feel, and it should come to you organically. Like if you have not, let's say, taken up core leadership roles, if you're not mentored enough people, which really doesn't, in a DTM journey, you need not mentor people in that sense, other than your club mentorship role, what you do. If you've not been part of somebody else's growth, and if you have not really worked on a speech to give you a really great speech, because I truly believe that you may not be a great speaker, but you definitely can give a great speech if you work really hard at it. And I think that's what it is, and I don't want to talk about people who have rushed into getting their DTMs and all. I don't think that's what DTM stands for.
Sunil, from your distinguished Toastmaster journey, let's take a step back and let's go back to your Navy experience. And then immediately after Navy, you've been in the corporate for 15 years. How did this transition happen from the forces to corporate?
I don't think that was a planned transition, because if I had planned, maybe I would not have changed it. But then subsequently when I look back, I think it took a lot of courage, and I think a lot of people asked me to think about it very keenly, because it was a very secure job. It was, I would say, one of the best jobs that you can have in the government sector in that sense, a lot of pride associated with it. But I felt that I had to move out due to, I think, mainly a couple of reasons. One, I would say, is that I felt I could do better in the corporate space, and I felt by being in the Navy and constantly on the move from one place to the other, I felt my family life would not be as fulfilling, and my better half also would not be able to settle into a job. And then looking at all those considerations, I thought of moving out, and that's how I moved out in 2006. So I was 7 years in the Navy, from 1999 to 2006, and it was a major, sort of a gap in that sense, my understanding of how the corporate life would be like. I'll just give a simple example. I remember that when we are in service, anybody who's senior to you and anybody who's junior to you, anybody junior to you always calls you addresses you as sir. And whoever is anybody senior to you, you always address as sir, even if it's a one-day seniority, you know. And when I came to corporate, my first company was an international company, an MNC, and everybody used to call everybody by name. I was okay somebody junior calling me by name. I was very comfortable. I don't know why it was. But when I had to call somebody who was my senior, my reporting boss by name, I felt my inner self revolting. Because in my mind and in my, in my mouth, the only thing that would come is sir, nothing else. And I still remember when I was working there, and I used to call Sir G, and I used to go that addressing. I used to address people like that. And one of the senior managers called me aside and told me, "Look, Sunil, you think you're doing me a favor by addressing me as Sir and Sir G, but I don't feel that is required. I actually feel that it's not good. Call me by my name, and that's it. Okay. Here people would look at it as you're apple polishing and you're being buttressing and whatnot. That's not required. Call me by name and give the due respect. That's all that's required." And that was like a big revelation for me, coming out of service. And but that one person had the courtesy to come up to me and say it on my face, and that I've been carrying that forward till now. But then what I've also found is different organizations work differently.
Right.
Now in my present organization, there is a hierarchy. Everybody who's junior tends to call everybody by sir, and if you're senior, you tend to call address sir. But that's not consistent. I think it's more on age than specific seniority, because I have seniors who I call by name, but there are juniors who you might address sir because of the age and the amount of experience that I've put in and all that. So I don't, but then it's not as hierarchical as I had thought of it earlier when I moved out of service.
So now this is your experience or your instances with people who are senior to you, the sir culture. But I've also seen that generally in the armed forces, for folks who are junior to you, you are a little stern with them, you are on their face. Whereas in corporates, you have to put in a layer of, you have to be a little more polished, a little more considerate. Was that difficult, or were you always that person and you fitted quite well in the corporate stride?
So I will answer this in two parts. One, the Toastmasters side, and the other side. Okay, so when I joined Toastmasters, one of the things that came to me as feedback was that you don't smile enough. Okay, even when I give my speeches and whatnot, even if I say a joke, it seems I don't. You're supposed to lead with a smile when you bring in humor, isn't it? So that people around you know that you've said a joke. And I try to work on that, and I've tried to be more relaxed on stage, be smiling more on stage, and that I think has been seen on my stage persona. But the other part of it is, you invariably tend to become a loner because of the type of training that's given in the armed forces. And yes, that's always been a challenge. People have come up to me saying that I seem very distant, that I don't engage enough. And my present HR also is a very close friend of mine in my organization. He used to keep telling me that if you don't talk to your people will not tell you what's happening. And I always felt when they are comfortable, they will come to me. That doesn't work in the corporate space. You actually have to go in, you have to talk to people, and you have to, I would say, have a cup of coffee on an offline space. Otherwise, people don't talk to you. That's been a learning for me, and I don't think I'm still there yet. I think I still have a long way to go from that perspective.
So Sunil, on the lines of your forever learning spree, for our audience who do not know, Sunil and I have been doing MBA from the same institute for the last 1.5 years. So Sunil, first your defense naval experience and then 15 years of corporate. What is it that made you want to sign up for MBA now?
So that again goes back to whether it's Toastmasters or anything else. I personally believe that the day that you stop learning, you might as well go home. I mean, it really doesn't make sense. And it doesn't need to be a formal learning environment or a learning process. It has to be some sort of learning. It could be learning about yourself, learning about some specific subject, learning a new language, which I know is going to be difficult for me. But you need to do. So from that perspective, I wanted to learn something, and So every year I get into something or the other. Till around 2016, I had gone for one certification or the other, and from there on, my learning sort of plateaued out. And that, so to really kickstart that, I wanted to get into something really crazy, and then I wanted to do MBA. And when I started looked at MBA, I could have done MBA in, let's say, operations management, which I am doing, or which I'm doing on a day-to-day basis. But I wanted to do something totally different. That's why business analytics came in. And why business analytics? Because everybody's talking about it. That is the in thing. We're talking about AI, machine learning, and analytics and all that. And I felt if I get into that, I would be more tech savvy in that sense by getting into it, and then obviously learn. And then I've also found over the last many years that structured learning processes works really good for me. Like look at YouTube videos. People talk about that. You can get into a YouTube video. You can learn from that. Then you can do that. That really doesn't work out for me. So I really needed somebody to be really behind me to get me to learn. I think that MBA is really working out that way, in that sense. And so that 1.5 years that you said has been a great learning experience. And learning in multiple ways, not the subject knowledge, but the very fact that I can sit and study, the very fact that I can sit for 2.5 to 3 hours and write an exam without being fatigued. All those things have been huge learnings for me, And yeah, it's been really good.
That's what, Sunil, just the other day I was talking to Dilshad and she mentioned about this term called officer-like quality.
Very cute.
And once you are in that space where you have the officer-like quality, of course, I think persistence is one of those which I see in you. Now you are in your corporate journey and your MBA and you're doing Toastmasters and you are running and you're in your health journey. Where and how do you find the balance between all of these?
So, see, the point here is, I personally believe there is no work-life balance. Okay, you just have life. You just need to manage within that, and I think one extends to the other. If you, like for example, I've been a runner since 2019, and before that, I've been doing fitness, but not that sort of in a very structured manner. If you have a good run today, if you run a 10 kilometers and you're really high, that really positively impacts your work. If I get into a Toastmasters meeting and I do a really good role, whether it's a generally valued role, if I give a good speech, I know that next day morning I'm going to be on a high in my office. So I don't think it's one or the other. I think it's just, you need to connect it appropriately and then automatically you will find time. Similarly, if you spend time with your family, luckily for me, when I get home, both my better half and my son are into Toastmasters. My son has started his running journey. Both of us are runners. And my better half is also a runner. So when we run together, when we do physical things together, that bonding that comes in a different altogether. So it's sort of, I don't think it's about finding time. You know it is important. So the time automatically gets found.
Sunil, I'm seeing you as this package full of energy and dreams and passion. Do you want to give out some sort of a message on the same lines to your other veteran friends who are probably wanting to do something unconventional?
I don't think I'm the right person to give that kind of a messaging. But then I feel that most veterans, when they come out, most ex-military people, they come with a lot of energy and a lot of enthusiasm because of the type of lifestyle they have left, because they are mostly physically active and generally people tend to be more engaging and whatnot. The only thing or message that I can give is that I think many times when you're part of a system, any legacy system, you tend to have a specific mindset. And when you come as veterans and anything, if you say even people who have been in any organization very long time, it could be a corporate organization also, you've been in an organization, let's say, for 20 years. When you come out of, the world is different. And you need to be open to that different world. So I'll give you an example. Now, the Toastmasters club is a club which has got a plethora of people. We've got entrepreneurs, we've got teachers, we've got primary school teachers, high school teachers, we've got people who are running their own businesses per se, from the corporate space, students and whatnot. And when you talk to them, you get different perspectives. And I believe that you should be open to different perspectives. And if you are not open to different perspectives, then you would struggle. Okay, every environment that you get into will bring in a challenge, different challenge, which is different from what you're used to, whether it's in the military space or any other space. And if you're not open to that, if you're close to that amalgamation, as you would call it, then you're really going to struggle. So my only point is keep an open mind.
Yes, so Sunil, adaptability and openness, all of these combined. I'm looking at you as this comfortable human in his space. And that brings me to my next question. As our MBA sirs would say, do you see yourself overfitting or underfitting at any instances in your life? Or was it always this smooth, all of these transitions across different phases and places?
No, I think, I don't think it's ever been of underfitting or overfitting. My personal take on that is, if you do not try to look at new opportunities and look at new ways of doing things, you will invariably be stuck. Okay, now for example, if I'm not doing an MBA or if I'm not part of Toastmasters or anything for that matter, these and I truly believe these movements and these learning spaces, because those actually open your mindset. I'll give you one simple example. Okay, my last year, or when we first started. For the viewers, we really need to scan our papers and upload it when we are during our exams. And in one of the examination centers, the internet did not work, and I had to actually use the mobile app to put it in one file and upload and all. I've never done it in my life. Okay, and I'm not that sort of a tech savvy guy. And so two things. One, obviously, I needed to learn the tech, and I felt that was not my job. I should be more focused on writing the exam, not on the tech aspect of it. And I was really upset with the invigilator and the proctor there, saying that should I be preparing for the exam or should I be preparing for learning about the app? But then I did learn, and I worked on that. And the other thing is, there were two kids, okay, who are I think a year older than my son, who were there and doing it effortlessly. Okay, doing this work. So I actually had to reach out to them. Guys, can you please help me? I really felt old at that point of time. But then I really also felt that I was very empowered, that I could actually, step back from my so-called halo that I had created around myself of my, so many years of corporate experience and being a military veteran and all that, and really reach out to somebody when I really needed that help. And unless you're open to that, unless you're really adapting to that sort of a scenario, and this has nothing to do with any learning experience, this is a totally very social construct, that you're having. And I think that was a big learning on that particular day. And I even think back today, and they were very nice guys. Huh? Kids were very nice. They said, okay. And he said, uncle, come here, I will teach you. And I really liked that. I was like, okay, fine. And they were not looking down upon me, or they were very, very sweet, and they took that time. They must have spent 15-20 minutes just to help me out of that. Very sweet guys.
Sunil, you come with this unique work experiences of making it through Navy and then corporate and then Toastmasters, and all of these work constructs are different in their own ways. How was it to work in all of these three and then shine in all three as well?
I'm not sure I'm shining, but but then yeah, see, the point is, the biggest difference what I've seen is the way leadership works. See, when you're a leader in the military space, there is hardly anything that people do what you ask them to. Let me put it like that. That's the bottom line. You tell people to do something, they get it done, because that's the way they are trained. That's the way we have been ingrained into it. Whereas in the corporate space, you have a lot of pushback, and people have their own thought processes and whatnot and all. And in Toastmasters, what happens is, people are coming in just because they want to come in. They don't have to. In the corporate space, they have to, because there's a salary attached to it, isn't it? But in Toastmasters, what happens is, you're coming in, you're being part of the club or you're part of the district because you want to be there. And working with those kind of people and working with people in the corporate and the military are totally different in that sense. And that was a big learning for me, because when I was in the services, it was like, okay, get this done means it gets this done. Nothing happens beyond that. Whereas when you went into the corporate space, they had a different thought process altogether. And Toastmasters, working with people, like I still remember when I became president the first time in my club, my sergeant at arms was a college going kid. Okay, and so much of challenges with regard to that. And I'm not blaming that person for it. I think I also had to mature as a leader to handle that kind of a situation, you know. And there was one time when I had a very senior person part of the Toastmasters, part of my team. Very difficult to work with. As an area director, I had somebody who was much older than me also. Okay, at least 10 years my senior. How do you work with such people? You never come across those kind of things in other spaces. Even in corporate, even though you say you get elder people, but the age difference isn't so much, you know, more or less, at least as far as I worked with. So that is a big learning. But the common factor across the board, as on today, is that as leaders, whether you're in military services or you're in corporate or you're in Toastmasters, the common factor is that we are all being watched. We're all being judged. We are in the public space. Whichever public space, it could be a small public space, it could be a big public space. And we're all being looked at how we are doing. Any sort of ethical integrity issues or anything that comes up and we are found wanting, then there is, I think, there could be huge challenges with regard to the way our team will react to us or respond to us, I would say.
So Sunil, now that you have had so many experiences and achieved so much and learning so much, what is it that you want to do next? What is next in cards for you?
That's a very good question. And I think that is something that needs a lot of introspection. Personally, for me, from a work perspective, I want to start doing something that will give back to the community that is given to me, you know, get into places where I can mentor people at the corporate level, not and see if I can learn something more. One is mentoring of people, and the other thing is learn more that tomorrow I can be in a position to actually teach somewhere. Meaning getting into a teaching institution and work with students and things like that. That's what I would really like to do in the long term. What do I do in my corporate space? From a Toastmaster space, obviously my next DTM, and then keep contesting.
Amen to that, Sunil. I hope you achieve all that you want to, and thank you so much for gracing our BaatCheet Beyond Small Talk. I wish you all the very best for whatever amazing you have.
Thank you for having me.
In conversation with the amazing, distinguished Toastmaster Sunil Govind, thank you for watching another episode of BaatCheet Beyond Small Talk, where we talk about the comfortable and the uncomfortable. If you liked our episode, please do like, share and subscribe to our channel at District 92 Toastmasters International, where leaders are made.